everybody. Welcome to Weather on the Go. Hope everybody's having a great Thursday morning out there. Kind of a shorter video here today. Just kind of going to be talking about the storm system that brought the severe weather to parts of the Midwest and Western Great Lakes and even the Southeast on your Wednesday. And also kind of looking ahead to today, Thursday, and even into Friday here for some severe weather. And then kind of settling down and looking at the kind of the major heat wave moving through, starting on the Father's Day weekend here this weekend and going through much of next week and really even the rest of June here, kind of looking ahead to that, and also looking down at the tropics here as the tropics continue to remain pretty active, especially across the eastern Pacific. So welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great Thursday morning. Let's kind of look here at the Storm Prediction Center reports from yesterday, and we do see a lot of wind reports across portions of Wisconsin, getting up into the UP of Michigan, northeastern and eastern Iowa here, even a couple tornado reports across central Wisconsin here. Some confirmed tornadoes were reported on the ground, and one of them are potentially here long tracks. So that will be something the survey teams will have to monitor when they go out and survey here today and on Friday. To kind of see how long these tornadoes were on the ground and how significant the damage was. But also here wanted to note across especially western Georgia and the east central portions of Alabama, another area of some pretty significant severe weather here at times, where we did have some 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, even some hail being reported across portions there of the eastern Tennessee Valley down into the deep south and portions of the southeast as well on your Wednesday. So in total here, 2 tornado reports, 158 wind reports, you got 22 hail reports, and then you have 182 total severe weather reports on your Wednesday. So a pretty active day it was for sure. But as we head into today, the Storm Prediction Center has 2 or even 3 areas really of severe weather here across the country here today. The most significant noted across the interior portion here of the New England area here across New York State, getting down into much of Pennsylvania with that enhanced risk of severe weather here, which does include the damaging winds, the large hail, and even a few tornadoes here in that enhanced risk. So a pretty decent risk for severe weather across those areas. And then a slight risk extending down into eastern Ohio, portions of northern West Virginia, and then extending up here into eastern Pennsylvania, eastern New York State, and then that larger marginal risk area getting down into the Carolinas, portions of Virginia, and the eastern Tennessee Valley along the Appalachian chain there. A small marginal risk here down into portions of the Jackson, Mississippi area, down towards the New Orleans region, and portions of like Lake Charles, Alexandria, Louisiana, maybe some isolated stronger storms there. And then another area of some storms that will start across the Central Plains and then dive east southeast here kind of as an MCS cluster as we head through the evening hours and into the overnight hours, with that slight risk from portions of southeastern Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, including the Kansas City metro area, and then getting down through north central Missouri and toward the St. Louis area, Springfield, Illinois, and downstate Illinois as we head into the overnight hours. So looking at the individual risks today, we do have a 30% wind risk across the interior portions of New York State, and then getting into portions here of Pennsylvania, that 15 and 5% wind risk here surrounding that. You have a small 5% wind risk down into Louisiana and portions there of central and western portions there of Mississippi, and then you have that 5 to even 15% wind risk here across portions of the Central Plains, getting into the mid-Missouri Valley and downstate Illinois here today as well. And then you have that 15% hail risk across much of the portions of the New England there and interior New England, getting into the eastern Ohio Valley. Also a significant hatched 15% hail risk where we could have 2-inch or larger hail of golf ball size or larger across much of west central Pennsylvania, southwestern New York State, getting into eastern Ohio, maybe far northern portions there of West Virginia as well, where we could have those big hailstones potentially over 2 inches in diameter. So some pretty significant hail potentially here today as well. That 5% hail risk extending down to the south, another small 5% risk down to the south across Louisiana and Mississippi, and then that 5 to 15% hail risk across the mid-Missouri Valley into the Central Plains. And then you got that 2% tornado risk across the Central Plains in the mid-Missouri Valley toward downstate Illinois. Not a big tornado risk there, but maybe can't rule out an isolated kind of spin-up tornado later today. You got a 5% tornado risk across portions of New York State, getting down into Pennsylvania here, maybe a few tornadoes within that. We'll see if they upgrade to a 10%, but I think this may stay as a 5%, so we'll have to see how that works out in their new the Storm Prediction Center's new update here through the morning hours today. Let's kind of look at like the setup here as how we got the severe weather here coming as we head into later today into New England. We got a lot of warm air pushing in here from the south and southwest. We got the hot dome of high pressure continuing across portions of the southeast, pumping in all that moisture, all that heat across the area. And speaking of the moisture, we have dew points well into the 70s, especially into the mid 70s across portions here of interior New England, getting down through the Ohio Valley and much of the southeast and Tennessee Valley, pumping right into the region. And that is going to fuel some pretty high, Cape values, instability, convective available potential energy that will be here on the rise through the afternoon hours and into the evening hours, and that's where these thunderstorms love, is all this energy in the atmosphere, and they will dive to the south and southeast here with time as they develop right along the lakefront and push down to the south and east here. But generally here with the instability, the yellows here showing 3,000 joules per kilogram instability. You got the maroons and the reds showing up to around 3,500 to near 4,000 joules per kilogram, which is almost 4 times of what you need for severe weather. Remember, severe weather you can have 1,000 joules per kilogram and enough wind shear, and you got some severe weather. Thunderstorms can develop at 500 joule per kilogram instability, so this is well over that threshold that you need, so that will be something to monitor. And also here watching a pretty decent risk for some supercell thunderstorms across portions of New York State, getting down into Pennsylvania, maybe West Virginia and eastern Ohio today, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center did put out that 2% and even that 5% tornado risk area, as some of these supercells could be rotating as we head into later today. So let's kind of look at what the radar could look like as we head in through the day today. We got another complex of showers and storms pushing through portions of New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, getting down to Maryland, portions of eastern Virginia during the morning hours today. And then this will kind of scoot off the coast here, maybe some lingering showers and storms down into North Carolina and southern Virginia into the afternoon. Then we got those storms firing up across southwestern New York State, getting into northwestern portions there, Pennsylvania, maybe northeastern Ohio. And these will really start to blow up and explode as we head in towards late this afternoon and into the early this evening here. And those where we could have those supercells developing from eastern Ohio all the way up through northwestern portions of Pennsylvania, western New York State there, with maybe some tornadoes as well as damaging winds and that large hail risk, which could be up to 2 inches or larger in diameter in some of these spots. So that is something to watch. And then this will start to propagate its way to the east-southeast and then eventually drop more south into the better instability through the evening hours before gradually fading away as it reaches much of the mid-Atlantic here. Maybe some lingering outflow boundaries that can kind of keep some of these storms alive well into the overnight hours, but I think the severe limits they will kind of be sub-severe at that time. Maybe still some small hail and gusty winds, but the main severe risk will kind of shift and kind of wane across portions of this area as we head into the overnight hours. Maybe some renegades, showers and storms across the lakefront here into portions of western New York State, northwestern Pennsylvania into the early Friday morning time frame. Generally, when it's all said and done, this is just for today into Friday morning. You can be expecting upwards of an inch to, locally 3 inches of rainfall. Cannot be ruled out across some of these areas, especially if you get more than one thunderstorm that moves over the same location here. We could have locally up to around 3 inches of rain, especially into portions of Pennsylvania, getting down through eastern portions there of Virginia, as well as maybe even North Carolina there. Here, some heavier thunderstorms possible as well. Then as we look into Friday, we got 3 separate areas of severe weather, potentially some lower end severe weather. You got the marginal risk across portions of the Pacific Northwest here, across Idaho, getting into western Montana. You got another smaller marginal risk across eastern Wyoming, getting up into southeastern and eastern Montana, and then a much larger marginal risk extending across the Tennessee Valley, the Carolinas down through the southeast, and then kind of moving up the east coast into the northeast here on Friday. Just generally some isolated gusty winds, some isolated large hailstones that could be up to around quarter, half dollar size, and maybe a spin up tornado, but the tornado risk here across all of these areas look pretty, small as we head into your Friday. But the bigger story moving forward is going to be the heat, and that will be coming back in a big way across much of the country. The Climate Prediction Center here, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from June 21st through the 25th shows well above average temperatures across much of the southern and southeastern United States, extending up through portions of the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and the Midwest. And did I even mention here the Ohio Valley as well? And definitely going to see some steamy temperatures across much of the country, especially east of the Rockies, where we could have a big high pressure system centered across portions of the Dixie Alley and southeast. And then you have that here, that clock clockwise flow across, around that high pressure, and what's called a ring of fire pattern. And when you have that, you have some of that precipitation starting to revolve around that, and we could be watching some more storm complexes here across portions of the northern plains and getting into portions of the Great Lakes as well as the Ohio Valley during this period as well. But underneath that ridge, not much lift. You got a lot of sinking air, so you're not going to see a lot of precipitation. You still got that monsoon weather here. Monsoon season still alive across the Four Corners region, and you maybe have some storm complexes moving up into the central and northern plains during this time frame. And then you got below normal precipitation favored across Intermountain West toward the west coast here during this period as well. And this heat wave, once again, will have some staying power going all the way through basically the rest of June into the opening days of July. Above average temperatures are expected across much of the country here. I'd say about 80% of the country going to be above average in some shape or form as we head through the 23rd through the 29th time frame here in June. So that will be something to monitor. Maybe a little bit of a trough across the Pacific Northwest, but other than that, nothing too out of hand with the cooler temperatures. Most of us will be feeling summer as we head toward late June. But more importantly, that monsoon weather will continue across the Four Corners here in those areas that have been drought stricken for so long. So that is some good news. We got that, active northern stream jet, maybe some storm complexes again, continuing across the northern plains, diving down into the upper Midwest, portions of the Great Lakes. But underneath that high pressure, you're not going to have a lot of lift here, a lot of rising air. You're going to have a lot of sinking air instead. And that's where you have that below normal precipitation. And across portions of the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast, below normal precipitation is favored there through June 23rd through the 29th time frame as well. And then kind of looking at the heat wave even further, kind of showing you the upper air dynamics with this. You got a very strong high pressure system across the southern United States. You got a very powerful and potent jet stream here moving all the way up to here Intermountain West, and then turning across portions of the southern and central Canada. So that will send temperatures well into the 90s, even some lower 100s all the way up into Manitoba, Saskatchewan, maybe even into Ontario. We got to watch the eastern side of this jet here down into eastern and southeastern Canada, into the northeast here as well for some more active storm complexes here later this weekend. And then this will start to really amplify even further as we head into Father's Day itself. This is Father's Day here on June 19th going into June 20th, and that jet stream continues to push up towards central Canada here with a large ridge of high pressure centered across portions here of the southeast and into the mid-Atlantic. So this is into the mid-south rather, and this is going to be really, really important to bringing those temperatures well up to the north here into the hundreds as we head during that time frame. And then as we head towards Tuesday, this gets a little more interesting as we have a little bit of a trough continuing to try to develop across the Pacific Northwest. We have a little bit of a ripple in the jet stream, and that may signal another storm complex or two potentially developing during early to mid portion here of next week. And that could, with all the heat down to the south, you got that ring of fire pattern and clockwise around that high pressure. And that's where you could definitely see some severe weather here with all that instability growing. You already got all that moisture with dew points well into the 70s again. And you got all of that wind shear starting to come back into play here as well in the upper levels as this starts to kind of move to the east here as we head towards that Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. But generally looking at that temperatures here on day 3 here, Saturday, June 18th, you got that temperatures rising all the way up to the hundreds, potentially as far north as the Canadian border already on Saturday. Widespread 100s across Nebraska, getting down to western Kansas and portions of Texas. You got some hundreds possible in the southeast, and especially across the Phoenix area again. And then as we head into Father's Day itself, widespread lower 100s from portions of the International Falls all the way down into portions of Minnesota, the Dakotas, all the way down the central southern plains, much of Texas, much of the eastern side of the country here under the Tennessee Valley, the southeast, baking in 90s here, maybe some middle 90s on Father's Day, where you have the cooler weather on Father's Day across portions of the Pacific Northwest here with some 60s and 70s, maybe some 80s mixed in here in California. And for the Northeast here on Father's Day, you have temperatures in the 60s and 70s there as well. So it's pretty pleasant across the Northeast for your Father's Day. So do enjoy your Father's Day weekend across the Northeast and really all of the country here as well. And this will really start to expand as we head towards Monday, June 20th, with all these 90s and 100s continuing to surge to the north, and that will only continue here to blossom as we head towards Tuesday, June 21st and beyond. Here is this dome of high pressure, basically almost kind of centered on the southeast, and kind of almost like this graphic does show. This graphic is meant to show kind of the derecho kind of potential as you have clockwise, but winds around this high pressure. And since this high pressure is going to be pretty similarly parked like this shows on the graphic, I did feel like it was pretty necessary to show this as we have the airflow kind of clockwise around this high pressure. You have a little bit of a trough in the west here with some ripples of energy moving off that. Progressive derechos are the most significant, usually the most intense and fast moving, hence the name progressive. And they will usually kind of move from portions of the northern plains and then around this high pressure here to the north across the upper Midwest, the upper Great Lakes, and then getting kind of diving down around through the Ohio Valley in the northeast. But during the cooler months, the cooler season derechos are usually the serial ones. They'll usually move from north to south or south to north. Those ones aren't usually as intense, but they can still pack quite a bit of a punch with some strong winds and maybe even some tornadoes even in the cool months. So do not want to take that any lightly than a progressive one, but the progressive ones are more dangerous because they have a lot more instability during the warm season, and that's why their progressive derechos are favored during the warm season. Generally, with the frequency of derechos here, we're already through May. We've already gotten through halfway in June, and now we're getting in towards the start of summer here. As in just a few days, on Tuesdays, the start of summer solstice, and you still have that higher end chance of seeing the frequency of derecho still there as we head into July and through the rest of June here, and then even into August. Still decent chances here for derechos climatologically through much of the country during that time frame before we start dropping off toward the fall months. But yeah, generally here the rest of this month into July and even August, the derechos will become more common potentially across the country, especially around that high pressure. So that will be something to watch. Now, going back to 2012, I thought this was interesting as well. June 29th through the 30th, we're getting closer to that time frame here of the 10-year anniversary a decade ago, where we did have a very strong derecho start in eastern Iowa and then march its way east-southeastward through northern Illinois, much of Indiana, basically the entire state of Ohio, and through all of the mid-Atlantic here before it moved off the mid-Atlantic coast, producing significant damaging winds along its path, especially widening as it gets through portions of the eastern Ohio Valley through the mid-Atlantic states, producing even some tornadoes along the way, some damaging straight-line winds here, I do believe over 80 miles an hour significantly across much of this mid-Atlantic here. A lot of power outages did result here. And I did show this because we are approaching the 10-year anniversary of that. And the pattern does look similar to this as we head towards, the middle and end of June here. So that is something to watch because, something like this could happen once again. So I don't want to let your guard down. I don't want to scare you by showing this by any means, but definitely here have to watch, the potential for derechos as we head through the rest of summer, and that I will keep you updated on all of that as we head through the summer months. Now let's turn your attention to the tropics. Some busy, tropical weather across the, much of the eastern Pacific basin, getting in towards the southern Gulf and even the Atlantic. So we'll touch on this here for a few minutes. You got tropical storm here, Blas across portions here, actually hurricane Blas, across portions of off the southwestern Mexican coast. This is moving to the northwest here. I believe this is an 85-mile-per-hour hurricane, so a Category 1, and this is also on its heels. You have a 70% chance of this becoming a named storm here behind this, moving to the west-northwest here in the next 4 to 5 days. So that'll be something to watch. Just looking at Hurricane Blas itself, this is starting to move to the west-northwest over open waters, and it will continue all the way through the Father's Day weekend, but it'll maintain hurricane status probably all the way through at least Friday evening or even Saturday morning. So some pretty, a couple more days, some pretty decent hurricane status storm. This could strengthen even further here, potentially higher than that 85-mile-per-hour threshold. Right now it's moving west-northwest at 6 miles per hour, so it's a pretty slow-moving hurricane, but it is producing quite a bit of winds and quite a bit of wave action potentially toward that Mexican coast there as well. But looking off into the portions here of the Atlantic side, you do have that 10% chance of this becoming a named storm or system across portions here of the southern Caribbean, or the western Caribbean, the southern Gulf. This looks to move more onto land, though. The trend has been to move this more onto land, so it's kind of weakening. That's why they do give this a 10%, because if it's going to move over land, there's not a lot of water interaction here, so you're not going to see, all the strengthening here as the storms off to the west will have. But nevertheless, still something to watch, and that that I will do and help you out with as this kind of moves closer toward the U.S. But I think this will turn more towards the southern Mexican coast, towards portions of Central America here. Like I said, the 10% chance will continue here for the next few days. Well, thank you for watching my video. I do appreciate you guys very much. I will be taking the weekend off. I will have another video for you tomorrow. I'm going to take Father's Day weekend off on Saturday, Sunday. I will be back Monday morning for another full update on the heat wave, and also hear more severe weather here if it does warrant that, and also hear more of the tropics as well, as we have the active tropics continuing well through June and much of the summer and fall months. So I'll keep you posted on that. So do be sure to like my video, give me a nice thumbs up, also leave any comments, questions below. I definitely will answer those, and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn all notifications on, as I will be off for the weekend, but like I said, I will be back Monday morning, so turn your notifications on, as I will have more forecast updates on Monday morning after tomorrow's update. So do be sure to be tuned in for that. And like I said, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do appreciate you guys very much, and I hope everybody has a great Thursday out there.